what's up? Hello. Welcome to a Freaky Friday edition of The Sweat. He's Adam Kaufman. He's laughing at me. I'm Jessie Coffield. And 60 minutes of DFS and betting goodness is coming your way. Yes, it is.
I was listening to it earlier.
Hey, what's up?
All right.
Yeah.
We're happy you're here because we'd otherwise wonder why the heck we are. Again, it's a Friday night, and we're also happy DK contributor Julian Edlow is here for baseball. MLB pickoff, Jules. Game 1 of the NLCS tonight between the Dodgers and Braves. No, wait, the chalk was erased, actually. It's the Cardinals and Nationals, the underdogs. Let's dive into some picks, pal.
First up, Nats are favored to win the series at minus 125. Would you pick them, or do you like the Cardinals in this best of 7?
Really good catch there, Kaufman. Good job.
Thanks, bud.
Look, the way things are going right now for the Nationals, it just seems like it's their season. They had no business winning that wild card game against Milwaukee. They pull it out at home in the late innings. They have no business winning that Game 5 at Dodger Stadium. And then playoff Kershaw comes in and gives up 2 bombs on 3 pitches, and here they are. I don't think it sets up all that favorably for them in Game 1, so I would maybe even consider seeing if they lose, getting some plus money on them to win the series afterwards. But if you want to bet the series before Game 1, my lean here would be with the Washington Nationals.
Specifically tonight, though, the Cards are favored minus 127 to steal from the great Kenny Mayne. He's not your Colas. He's not our Colas. He's Miles my Colas on the mound against Anibal Sanchez. Felix, would you take St. Louis at home?
I do like St. Louis in this game. I just think the pitching matchup, small edge to the Cardinals here. Michaelis has been good. A little bit better than Sanchez, but for the bullpen, like obviously bullpens are different than how we break them down in the regular season. In the postseason, you go with your best guys. We saw Corbin get some huge outs in Game 5 there against the Dodgers, but that's just why I think this Game 1 sets up better at home for St. Louis. Washington really had to go all out to get those last 2 wins. Scherzer's probably gassed from Game 4. Strasburg had to go deep in Game 5. They used Corbin out of the bullpen. I just don't think they're going to have that many arms in this game, whereas St. Louis can pretty much go in any direction that they want. I just think it all kinds of catches up to the Nationals a little bit here, and they get out to a sluggish start.
The run total is 8 tonight. Would you pick the over?
I do like the over here. We've been seeing some runs, particularly early in games in these postseason outings so far. And it's not like this is, a matchup of aces. They're 2 decent pitchers. But like I said, Washington has used up its bullpen a lot lately, so I don't think we're going to see as good of arms behind Anibal Sanchez, who's nothing special to begin with. And St. Louis's bullpen, we see them keep going back to Carlos Martinez in that closer role, and it hasn't gone well for them. So I do actually like the over in this one.
All right, it's not all betting and gambling, obviously. There's DFS as well. So, Showdown contest. Who's your captain?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of options we can look at here for captain. And while I like the Cardinals in this one, the best players, the best hitters are on the Nationals. So I think maybe looking to get a lefty bat going against Michaelis isn't a bad strategy. Juan Soto's obviously been on fire. And if you need a little bit cheaper as a lefty, Adam Eaton. But I think that Soto is probably the first guy that I'm looking to here in terms of that.
Okay, if you had to roster just one starter, only one, who would you pick?
I'm going with Michaelis. I just give him the edge in this game. Being at home, he's put together a nice string of starts. He hasn't been racking up DraftKings points, I guess, but he did get 6.3 DK points in that one inning out of the bullpen because he got that win. 10.3 DK points in the first game that he started in that series. But prior to that, he had been pretty solid, getting 15 or so DK points per game. I just think he's the more reliable option at home and probably goes deeper in this one. And if you like the Cardinals to win, like I do, getting those 4 points on the win would also be really helpful.
One thing he's not, though, is inexpensive. So value. Cheap player for this contest in the game, obviously. Who do you like?
Yeah, let's look at these Cardinals bats. Like the 2 cheapest players on this slate are Dexter Fowler at 5,600, who's leading off, and Yadier Molina for 5,400, who's batting right in the heart of that order at 5th.
Opportunity.
So, to be able to get those guys who are, on the team that's favored and in really good spots in that order for that cheap, I think that starting your lineup with the 2 cheapest guys on the slate makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Julian. Good stuff as always.
All right. Give it the old college try in your roadie sweatshirt.
Really love it. Really love it.
As always.
Absolute pleasure. All right. To all of you millions and millions of viewers who are watching, we've got an absolutely jam-packed show tonight. Stick around for cool stuff like Adam going one-on-one with Mike Francesa.
What could be better? It's a Francesa Friday. It's why I come, basically.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Before we bring you that chat with the Sports Pope, we're going to toss it over to the Pat Mayo experience for what is always an experience.
I'd rather gamble on a gimpy Tyreek Hill at like 60% than Odell at this point.
Well, Tyreek is not going to play unless he's 100%.
Well, I mean, it looks like he's getting closer to that.
I was just doing some waiver wire stuff this morning because I was thinking about how much I got a bid on freaking Pringle chip. And I don't, my takeaway from what I have heard from the organization is that he's not taken part in any contact drills yet. And he's just kind of sort of been limited, has not been able to practice fully. I think it'll be one more week before we see him.
Okay, so if he ends up, because this is the game that everyone's going to want exposure to, right? The Texans and Chiefs game. What are the best parts of this game, assuming both Watkins and Hill are out? Because it definitely looks like Watkins is going to be out.
So, I think the best parts of this game are McCole Hardman, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce.
So you think that Will Fuller ends up being bad chalk?
Oh, it's just like he might set new definitions for chalk.
And you will you will not be eating all the chalk hit last week.
I will only play him. I will set a rule in the Daily Road Optimizer where he has to be in so if Will Fuller's in a lineup, it has to be with Deshaun Watson or Mahomes, and then that'll correlate with my rule where because both of those guys are so expensive, I will also have them, minimum double stack. So basically Fuller will only make my runs if he is in a game stack.
How much is Pringle on this slate?
Dude, they messed up.
I can't even find him.
He's 3,500. And so, I guess DraftKings didn't mess up. It's just they set the salaries out before this game happened.
So if both those guys are out, Hill and Watkins, how owned do you think? Will Pringle be higher owned than Auden Tate was last week?
It'll be the same. Yeah, it'll be the same thing. 85, 90% in cash games, and I don't even know what Tate was owned, 40% and stuff in tournaments.
But you just is there any value to fading that?
Yeah, there's tons of value in fading it.
Would you fade it though?
Depends on how many teams I was making. If I was making 20, yeah, I make crazy amounts of teams. So it's like a super risky position to full out fade that guy in that many teams. But yeah, if I was making 20 teams, unless it was a game sack, I'd just go 0.
I think
especially because there's not anyone super expensive you're trying to get in this week. Unless you're playing double Elliott, Cook, Kamara, or whatever, you have room to get creative with these teams. I mean,
you could go to the double Julio and DeAndre just because they let everyone down last week, and that's where you spend your money.
Yeah, I definitely think just let me look at this real quick. Let me see the salary left. If you go Watson, Hopkins, Julio. You play Kittle at tight end, who's like the mega chalk. Let's say we get Edmonds in here, and we will throw who'd we say? Le'Veon Bell, super valuable. Yeah, I think Pringle is going to be very chalky, dude.
Panthers, Buccaneers. I know you're not all that high on the games in Europe. Frankly, I'm not either. Is there any reason to get excited for this one though, especially with these two teams?
No, and I can't stand. I think the games are always hurt by being there. I think the whole thing's a farce. Listen, the NBA has a right to claim that they have international fans. Baseball and football are really pushing the issue. I understand there's pockets where baseball has fans. The NFL, forget it. It's an American game, and it's a joke that they have fans all over the world. That is utter nonsense. And the NFL is just pure greed. It is nothing else. It is just the reach. We've saturated this market. Let's see if we can somehow cultivate another market. They don't need to cultivate another market. They have all the money they should want, but it's just pure greed. That's all it is.
Who wins that game?
I would say Carolina.
All right, seems reasonable. Let's talk about teams that are a bit better here. Seahawks are perfect on the road. The Browns winless at home. Is that pattern going to hold?
Very good game again. I think, listen, Cleveland's got to learn its lessons. It's got to understand, and this is where you're going to find out if this guy can actually coach or not, because we don't know if he can. But Mayfield's doing himself no favors, and the coach is doing Mayfield no favors. It's only a matter of time till Beckham gets very upset about being a guy who has 2 catches for 15 yards on every Sunday. And that happened the last 2 Sundays. I mean, people said, oh, wait till he gets with Mayfield to get away from Eli Manning. Anybody ever look at his first 3 years with Eli Manning? He caught 300 passes and 35 touchdown catches, and he missed games with injuries. He's had 4 catches for 30 yards in the last 2 weeks, and he's had 1 touchdown this year. So it's really fired up with Baker Mayfield. They need to get their act together. I give Seattle a lot of credit. I don't think they're as good as everybody else does, where they think that they're a Super Bowl team. But I'll tell you right now, Russell Wilson's playing great. He really is. He's playing sensational football. He's playing right now the quarterback position about as well as anybody in the league.
MVP candidate.
Yeah, he should be. Right now he should be. And actually, I think Mahomes' numbers are a little skewed this year. So right now, I think if anybody wanted to make him the MVP, I don't think it's a bad choice.
The Texans in Kansas City, over under 55 points. Should be a great fantasy day, which I know people care about around here. More importantly, though, do you expect a big bounce back from the Chiefs after that loss last week?
I think you want to make sure that they're ready to play at wide receiver. I know the offensive line got beat up last week, but the bigger problem last week was no Sammy Watkins and no Tyreek Hill. They've played without Hill now for a long time. They need to get Hill and Watkins healthy. When they do that, they'll be back to being their offense. The problem with the Chiefs is this. Andy made a lot of changes on defense in the fit of peak because he was upset about what happened last year. I think he hurt his defense. I don't think it's as good as it was last year, and that's a problem because if they don't stop the run, it will keep them from getting to the Super Bowl.
I have some very exciting news. The Redskins or Dolphins are finally going to win a game this weekend.
Maybe not.
Unless they tie. Unless they tie, then they won't. But 0-9 between them right now, and Washington also has a new coach, of course. So which team is going to be the one celebrating?
Washington. Because I think Miami wants to lose them all. I really do. I think that's the plan. I think that is tanking for Tua. I think they want to get thrown off the plan. So I think Washington, with the new coach, with a guy who's been around the league a long time, who we all know, with things kind of settled down now, because clearly there was a defiant nature going on there. It's no secret that Gruden did not want to play Haskins, and he put him in just to basically show the owner up in the Giant game, and we saw what happened. That was going to get him fired. It did. I think the Redskins will win. I do think they're the better team between the two teams.
Eagles, Vikings, basically a pick-em since Minnesota's home, favored by the 3 points, where they have not lost, by the way. So should we anticipate that trend continuing?
Yes, Minnesota is a great front-running home team. Zim is the most successful coach in the NFL at home. They win their games. Now, there's 2 things here that are kind of at loggerheads. The Vikings are a great point spread team at home as a favorite, but they are a terrible team against the elite teams in the league. If you consider the Eagles an elite team, which I kind of do, I know they've lost twice, but they're really better than that because they lost 2 3-point decisions. The Vikings don't beat elite teams. So that's the one at loggerheads, but I think the Vikings will win the game. Close game, I think the Vikings will win the game. I think the Eagles, though, are going to have a very fast finish to the season. In the last 5 weeks of the year, they play the Giants twice, the Dolphins, the Redskins, and the Cowboys at home. I think they'll win their 5 games, and they will storm into the playoffs.
Well, for now, you've got the 4-1 Saints in Jacksonville. You can, pick all the nits you want. Teddy Bridgewater does continue to get the job done with Drew Brees out. Will he lead New Orleans to another win?
No. I think they have to do more on the road. They win the tight game at home. But I think that Sean has got to either let Bridgewater throw the ball down the field. Bridgewater is setting records for how conservative they are throwing the football. It is ridiculous with their talent how conservative they are with Bridgewater. They're afraid to let him do anything. They're counting the weeks till Breeze comes back, despite the fact they haven't lost with Bridgewater. But I think unless they open the offense up, they'll lose this week. I think Jacksonville will beat them.
Hey, my name's Taryn Azak, and this is your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Good news for the Kansas City Chiefs fans. Tyreek Hill could play this Sunday against the Texans. Ian Rappaport reported this morning that there is optimism that Hill returns this week. He will undergo a scan on his injured clavicle to make sure it's safe for him to take the field Sunday against the Texans. The three-time Pro Bowl wideout is one of the league's toughest man-to-man matchups. He put up career numbers in 2018, totaling 87 catches for 1,479 yards in 12 touchdowns. And the Chiefs could really use that production. Last week, we saw a shaky performance by the offense, putting up only 13 points in their loss to the Colts. That's the fewest by Kansas City since Mahomes became the QB. If Hill is cleared to play, this might be an offense you want to factor in when it comes to DFS. DK Sportsbook has the total of this one at 55.5, which is the highest on Sunday's slate.
All right, welcome back. Flying right by. Feels like we just got here.
Yeah.
Okay, we got morning football coming up. Morning football. Panthers, Buccaneers, London, 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. It's great for us football junkies who like to wake up to football. Probably lousy for the people across the pond who will be subjected to those 60 minutes of these two teams.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, NFL panels here. DraftKings contributor Reed Fowler, Sportsnet fantasy host Andy McNamara, and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels. Hello.
Guys, this is Chase or Fade. Reed, tell us if you agree or disagree with the following statements. Reed, start us off. Kyle Allen is undefeated as the Panthers quarterback this year, and they've covered in all three of those wins. His Panthers are 2-point favorites in this one. So Chase or Fade, Carolina covers again.
I'm going to fade this. And this guy in his first start, right, taking over for Cam Newton, who's still hurt, is a guy that's been playing mistake-free football, and that's really what you like out of a guy who's, fairly new to the starting gig. He has no interceptions, and he hasn't really played a good secondary, and that continues right this week over in London. The Tampa Bay secondary is completely atrocious, but Jameis Winston, also of notoriety, hasn't played the worst football or what we've seen from Winston against his Carolina team. I know Bradbury is going to be on Evans, and that scares me a little bit. But Jameis Winston and this rush defense, which is the only rush defense that held Christian McCaffrey to a pedestrian outing last time these teams played, I think Tampa Bay wins this outright. So I'll take the money line at plus 115. Not the greatest value, but I like Tampa Bay to cover here and win.
Rosalie, Chase or Fade, Carolina covers.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Reed. I'm fading as well. He already told you all the reasons, the strategy reasons that you would go that direction. But even if you look at the history of these two teams too, right? When Carolina is a negative 0.5 to 0.3, so small favorite, they're 1-4 against the spread. Tampa Bay is 3-2. So it's interesting to take a look at those numbers and put that into play. Also, the last bad game that Christian McCaffrey had was against these Tampa Bay Bucks. It's the only one. So if they can't get Christian McCaffrey going, then they're going to have a problem. So I agree with Reed. I think Tampa Bay is going to win this outright. It's going to be a great game. But yeah, I think even with that small window there, I don't think Carolina covers.
Andy, what do you think?
I got to go with Tampa Bay, guys. The thing is, though, we have to keep in mind, weird things happen in London. It's like Thursday night football and London game. Weird stuff happens. So I think it's going to go one of two ways, that we're going to either see a high-scoring shootout or just a down and dirty slugfest, because it's just weird stuff happens. But I got to go with Tampa Bay. Kyle Allen, although he's playing mistake-free football as far as turning the ball over, it feels to me like Jameis Winston and that Bruce Arians offense are starting to get more comfortable. His turnovers have gone down. I'm going to go Bucks here.
All right, 6 of the last 7 games between these teams have finished under the total points line. This week, 47.5. Andy, I know this is not a Browns question, but still I'm going to ask you to answer it. Chase or fade, that trend continues and this game stays under?
I'm going to say under, but I'll go back to my comment from the previous section. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground here, guys. I think we're either going to see something like 55-50 or 2017. So I'm going to take the under in the London early game. Body clocks are off. Things get odd. So give me the under.
Rosalie, how about you? Over or under?
Yeah, I'm chasing this under as well. You look at the history of these two teams, they don't blow up the score, and they haven't been blowing up the score. So, and even their over-under history with each other, they're about median in it. It goes a little bit of both ways, airs on the under side quite a bit. So I'm chasing the under on this as well. Bucks at home with 46.5 or over, they're 6-8. Carolina Panthers away at 46.5 and over, they're 3-6. So I'm going with history again here and going under.
Okay, there's a pattern there, Reed. You could, go over -110. You can go under -110. Which one do you like?
Oh, I do like Rosalie's candle there in the background. Maybe a nice
Great
little
mood lighting
there for this, to make sure this game doesn't smell and stink up in London. Boom.
No stinky games.
Yeah, no, look, I'll make the case for the over here. These guys made really salient points, really good ones. And if you just look at the average taking away these two teams in London, the average of the last 5 games has totaled 41.6. And so to what Andy was saying, these teams that are essentially both on the road here, these teams, it's hard for them to get up. But both of these teams, really strong rush defenses. I like the wide receivers in each matchup that we'll get to in a little bit. So give me the over just because I think you have to pass on both of these defenses.
All right, let's move to the showdown contest for this game. Christian McCaffrey will cost you nearly $20K as captain. I mean, he is delivering, but
he's great, but that's a ton of money.
It is so much money. So Rosalie, chase or fade? He's too pricey to make captain.
Yeah, it's hard to ever fade Christian McCaffrey, right? He's just money all the time. And yeah, his one game versus the Bucks this year so far, it was his down game. It's the only game he had below 30 DK fantasy points, and it was really below. It was at 7.3. But with what he did last year versus the Bucks, it was 32.7 and 34.1 DK fantasy points in those 2 games. But as Reed mentioned just before, the Bucks' run defense has been really good. They only have 1 game so far this year where they allowed over 100 rushing yards. Now, of course, we know Christian McCaffrey can do it all. So do I hate him at 20K? No, not at all. You know he's going to put up the points. I can't see him having 2 down games against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But if I'm looking elsewhere, I'm looking at Godwin at the 15,600 for my captain.
Reed, you want to pay up here?
If we were talking, if Karan was on, he would also think this is actually $20,000 and he wouldn't pay up. And I'm with him, even though he's not in the segment, and with Rosalie here. I think this might be the only week that Christian McCaffrey is too expensive, because even when he's on the main slate and he is the most expensive player, it's still value, which is how good he's playing. MVP type season. If you're going somewhere else, I don't mind Kyle Allen. I really don't in terms of captaining, because you're not necessarily going to have a lot of ownership there. He's averaged over 30 passes per game. We talked about his mistake-free football, and he gets a bad secondary. He's not going to rush one in like we saw Tom Brady do. First time in 8 years he's done this, and rush touchdowns in. That's not Kyle Allen's game, but we saw what he could do against bad secondaries, so I don't mind Kyle Allen.
Okay, Andy, what do you think here? You want to be the one that's going to dish out the cash?
Well, and like everybody said, you're not going to go wrong with Christian McCaffrey. But if we're going to go a little contrarian, I love Godwin, but I'm going to go Jameis Winston in the captain spot, guys. Okay, everybody. Again, Godwin, gaudy numbers. McCaffrey, amazing numbers. But Jameis Winston, like I said earlier, is getting used to getting comfortable, starting to take away those turnovers in that Bruce Arians offense. If this game goes in one of the 2 ways I said, and it goes way up, Jameis Winston's going to be the reason why. So I'll take Jameis Winston kind of that in between 15,900 in that captain spot.
Yeah, man, who's putting 40% of your spend on one player? Let's get our heads right. It's nuts. Jameis Winston, he's averaging 6 more fantasy points a game than Kyle Allen, but also $1,400 more as a flex. So, Reed, right back to you, kid. Chase or fade, the Bucs' awful defense makes Allen a better play than Winston this week.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like Allen as a captain, and I don't even mind, to what Andy was saying, having Winston as a flex or even putting him in the captain to what he was, to his point. And if you just look at this matchup specifically, Winston has had a really good time against the Panthers. I mean, he's averaging over close to 275 yards passing and a few touchdowns. I think 3 or 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. I mean, Jameis with no interceptions against any team is fantastic. And just to go to that last question, you really got to give Todd Bowles a hat tip here for having this defense, way better defensive coordinator than a head coach, because this defense is really strong against the run. But Winston's not a bad play at all because of his opponent.
Allen over Winston, Andy. You chasing or fading?
Well, let's fade that. I'm going Winston, man. Got to go Jameis Winston. You look at Kyle Allen again, mistake-free football, but outside of his first appearance, you have 6.28 DraftKings fantasy points. You have 11.64 DKFP after that. Jameis Winston, we know. Now, you can be a boomer bust guy, but this dude, when he's on, he's popping at least high teens, usually into the 20s. So I think he's worth the extra spend, Jameis Winston.
Rosalie, the numbers don't lie.
They never do. They never do. That's why we rely on them so much, right? But sometimes they fool us. Sometimes it looks like it's going to be a great game for somebody, and then it's not. So, but yeah, here's the bottom line: is Tampa Bay is a pass-first offense. Carolina is a run-first offense. The last game versus Tampa Bay, Carolina did throw the ball for 313 yards, but they had 0 touchdowns. So, I got to like Jameis more. I like, to Reed's point, I kind of like both quarterbacks here, simply because Jameis has been more boom than bust so far this year. Bruce Arians is the quarterback whisperer. He's really kind of given Jameis the tools that he needs to do to be more successful and throw less interceptions. But you gotta love the fact that Kyle Allen is going against the worst defense in terms of quarterbacks fantasy scoring, and the last time they went up against a bad defense, Kyle Allen scored over 25 fantasy points. So I think you can make a case for both.
Well, how about Chris Godwin? He's had 3 100-yard games already this season. So Andy, chase or fade, he does it again this weekend.
Pace it. Godwin is for real. My God, like Mike Evans, who thought we'd be saying that in 2019, right? Like Godwin, I think he's the real deal. Maybe he doesn't go 172, but he gets into triple digits. I'm chasing that all day.
Rosalie, are you bringing that same energy to Chris Godwin?
Andy was like,
yeah,
you
I
idiots.
am chasing Godwin all over the place, and not in a creepy stalker way. I'm just
Whatever works.
The guy is good. He's really, really good. You look at how he's performed, and really, very similar to Christian McCaffrey, he's had really just one bad game. That was that one game where Mike Evans went off. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is the fact that Jameis has said that he wants to get Evans more involved. He wants to get him the ball more. But where they should be targeting against Carolina this week and where it's weakest, that's Godwin in the slot versus Cockrell. He's been giving up a lot of fantasy points to the slot. So hopefully we don't see him getting to the ball to Evans in lieu of Godwin, because that's where the money is.
Reed, everyone's on the Godwin train.
Yeah, I really like Godwin coming in any format, right? He's fantastic. BA, as Rosie likes to call him, said that he was going to be one of the premier players on offense, and absolutely is coming to fruition. And to Rosalie's point, if you look at Evans and what Winston is saying, we all know about QB and coach talk here. He gets James Bradberry. James Bradberry has been fantastic. If it's not Stephon Gilmore, Bradberry is up there as one of the top shadow cornerbacks. He's going to be shadowing Evans, and we saw what he did in that first matchup, which allowed Godwin to perform. And we see what Evans does when he gets a shadow corner on him. Sometimes he goes absolutely dark. And so with that being said, Godwin is there. Will he do another 100-yard? I think Rashad Perriman is a nice pivot if you want to, because I think a lot of that coverage is going to bracket on Godwin because of what he's done and what he did against Carolina. So Perriman becomes a very interesting sort of flex or sleeper play. But Evans, I would lean towards Godwin getting pretty darn close in the 90s in terms of that yardage, just because he's so good in any matchup.
I was just picturing Rosalie Godwin thinking about the stage 5 clinger
Stage
and
five
wedding
clinger.
crashers. I'd find you.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. Sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah, you
you
gotta
know?
get after him. Not in a creepy way, though.
Not
All
in a
right, it's gonna do it for Chaser.
Congrats to Andy, the new gig there, buddy.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, very, very excited. Very excited.
I hope they let you cover the Browns.
They're gonna have to. That's too bad.
All right, it's
I got
good
too
to-
much stuff.
Yeah, love it.
All right, guys, take the rest of the night off, would you? I think anyway. It's going to do it for Chaser Fade. We're going to take a break because I think we need it. We've earned it, and we're going to go.
We've definitely earned it. The content will keep rolling, though. We'll have Emerson Latzia get former QB Scott Zolak's pick for the best team in the NFC. Plus, we'll take a look at some odds on the DK Sportsbook with our NFL panel.
But right now, let's go to Pierce Dietrich with a very fast-talking NASCAR price check.
Welcome to the Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Talladega. Whose salary jumped up this week? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. $6,300 up to $7,500. Dear DraftKings, you get showdown slates, lowball tournaments, flash drafts. How about a NASCAR contest based on wrecks, spins, and DNFs? Make it happen. Clint Boyer, $8,600 up to $9,200. He's got a top 10 in just 2 of the last 10 at the plate tracks. But those 2 top 10s were second place finishes. Daniel Henrik, $5,900 up to $6,400. RCR's dropping him at the end of the season, and it makes sense. He's never won in any of the 3 series. This weekend's probably his last chance ever at getting a win. Whose salary dropped this week? Kyle Busch, $12,000 down to $10,900. Let's look at the real stats. He's in the M&M's Hazelnut car this weekend, and the last time that Kyle Busch won, he was in the M&M's Hazelnut car. You also got 2 DNFs in the M&M's Hazelnut car. M&M's, I did my part. Now send me a bunch of free stuff. Ryan Newman, $8,200 down to $7,300 over the last 3 years, 11 plate races. He has the second best average finish. Martin Truex Jr., $11,600 down to $10,700. He's coming in hot, but not at the plate tracks. Last 6 at Talladega, his average finish is 28. Favorite play of the week, Eric Almirola, $7,600. He won at Talladega last fall, and going back to 2016, he has a top 10 in every Talladega race. Joey Logano, $9,400. He should have won at Talladega in the spring. He's won 3 of the last 8 at Talladega, and he's got a top 5 in each of the last 4 races at Talladega. All right, guys, check out the DK Playbook for your DFS information and needs. If you have NASCAR questions, hit me up on Twitter at Race for the Prize. I'm Pierce Teacher. Catch me on DK Live.
Get ready to enter the cage. DraftKings and the Professional Fighters League have partnered up once again to bring you closer to MMA action than ever before. Introducing the 2019 PFL Playoff Bracket Challenge game presented by Presidente, where you get a shot at winning a slice of $30,000 in total cash prizing. Here's how. Simply make picks for each of the 3 upcoming PFL playoff events on October 11th, 17th, and 31st by selecting who you think has the best shot to advance to the quarterfinal and semifinal fights in each weight class. Watch all the fights live on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Every correct pick will earn you points so you can take down the competition and climb the leaderboard, getting you closer to a piece of the prize. Each correct pick in the quarterfinals, it's going to be worth 100 points and 200 points for a correct pick in the semifinals. You will have a shot at winning up to $10,000 in cash awarded to the first place finisher for each PFL playoff event. So choose wisely. Knock out the competition by playing the 2019 PFL Playoffs Bracket Challenge presented by Presidente on DraftKings, and watch all the fights on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus live from Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. All right, it's the PFL playoffs, and Randy Couture is here to break it all down for us, starting in the women's lightweight semifinals. How do you see Kayla Harrison and Jenna Fabian shaking out?
Well, it's a very interesting matchup, and in Kayla's 5 fights so far, I don't think anybody has really stepped across and hit her with a good shot right in the mug. And I think we're all kind of anxious to see how she deals with that adversity. She's dealing with a very, very good striker in Jenna Fabian. I think everybody knows where Kayla's strength is at, the 2-time gold medalist judoka. If she gets her hands on you, I don't care how big you are, how good a striker you are, you're going to have a serious problem. The question is, can she close the distance on someone as long and rangy as Jenna Fabian? with the striking power that Jenna possesses. And that's what makes this a really intriguing matchup.
What are your expectations when the number 1 seed, Sarah Kaufman, battles Larissa Pacheco?
Well, Sarah Kaufman's obviously the most experienced female in the whole division. She's been impressive in both of her fights in the regular season. Pacheco is no slouch. We saw Kayla Harrison get very, very upset in a decision win over Pacheco because that's how good Pacheco is. So that's actually a really, really interesting, even matchup between the two, even though Pacheco doesn't have the experience. She's a game fighter. She's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It'll be interesting to see who imposes their will and really has their way in that fight.
Let's rip through the men's welterweight quarterfinal. John Howard versus David Michaud. What do you like about this one?
Well, John Howard's coming off an impressive knockout of Ray Cooper. He's got great power. He's a veteran. He's fighting a relative newcomer in David Michaud, who's got a great wrestling background from San Diego State. He's really starting to get his feet under him, but he's going to have his hands full with John Howard. Both guys have great power, so you never know what's going to happen.
So what do you expect when Sada Boussi faces Ray Cooper III?
Well, a very interesting matchup because Sada Boussi is 6'2" at 170. He's long, he's rangy, he's got a very interesting striking style, but he's also got some great submission. Cooper brings great power in both hands. It's really going to be who can get into that proper range and land that shot. It's going to be a really interesting matchup.
All right, Magomed Kurimov clashes with Chris Curtis. You see this playing out how?
Magomed Kurimov is our returning champ. He's had a target on his back all year, but he's backed it up. He's had some great fights. This is a rematch from the regular season. Curtis lost in a decision in the regular season, so he's hungry. I think that the onus is always on the guy that won the first fight. What's he going to do different? What's that guy going to come in and change to get the outcome that he wants? And it's always a wild guess as to what that's going to be. So Curtis is hungry. It's going to be an interesting fight.
How big of an advantage does top seed Glyco Francois have on Andre Fialho?
Well, I think Andre Fialho is going to settle into this and have a full camp walking into this fight, which is a good thing for him. He took his first fight in the regular season on 10 days' notice. He got a walkover in his second fight to secure the number 8 seed. Franca is coming off of 2 finishes in his regular season bouts. He secured the number 1 seed with those performances. So he's coming in with a full head of steam. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I think you can make a case for either guy to win this fight. But Franca is probably the favorite after his regular season performance.
All right, people, watch it all go down on ESPN2 and ESPN+.
Time for this week's Sunday Night Showdown, presented by Kentucky Fried Chicken at KFC, of course. Kaufman's friends collaborate. DK Lives, Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, Adam Kaufman. Guys, we got Steelers-Chargers. I don't think we're going to get an explosion of points in this one. I know, it's a bad pun. I don't care. Colonel's pick for your captain spot. Bukes.
Yeah, I'm going to go right back with Keenan Allen here. Like, it's pretty clear he's been had a pretty rough couple weeks. He's drawn some really tough coverage against the Dolphins and the Broncos, but this is somebody who's still averaging 10.8 targets per game, and he's going to see mostly Mike Hilton in coverage. This is somebody who's been targeted against 17 times, has allowed 13 receptions on 153 yards. There's a good bounce-back spot for Keenan Allen. This will be the week.
For you to get a better option?
Yeah, well, maybe not better, but a little bit more contrarian. James Conner, he gets that backfield back now with Samuels out for the next month or so. Look at the Chargers. They've given up about 120 yards on the ground per game. A lot of injuries, a lot of veterans, older guys on that defense. We know what happened, obviously, with Derwin James early in the season, so that defense is a little susceptible. So give me James Conner in what should be a lot of production for him.
Okay, so next pick to go along with the Colonel. How about a sneak peek?
Yeah, I'm going to go Melvin Gordon. Look, this is his second full game back, had another week of practice, and we saw that Austin Eckler was extremely productive in terms of the pass. But look at Melvin Gordon, 16 total touches last week, and now again, look at that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They've given up the second most rush attempts. Even Gordon.
Bukes, what's in your carton, pal?
Yeah, so we're gonna go with Austin Eckler in this spot. Like, you just talked about Melvin Gordon being back, but the thing with Eckler is he's still very involved in the passing game. We just saw him draw 16 targets last week. Now we don't think we're gonna get that again, but 6 to 7 range, that feels very obtainable in this game. So I like Eckler, who's still gonna be, I think, very involved in this offense.
All right, gentlemen, great job. This will do it, of course, for the latest edition of the Sunday Night Series presented by KFC, where you can get your $5 fill-up mac and cheese bowl right now.
Best team in the NFC right now, who would you think is going to be the favorite to face Most likely the Patriots.
I think there's two. I think there's Green Bay and the Saints, depending on the health of Breeze when he comes back.
Yeah.
Can he be the same guy and function well? If that's the case, I'm going to favor the Saints. But right now, Green Bay is doing enough to win. It's not perfect with Rodgers. That whole Brady-Rodgers debate, I think that's over, as the Manning-Brady debate's over. But me being a guy that calls games and works Super Bowl week on Radio Row, the perfect scenario for us is Brady versus either Breeze or Rodgers. That's what we're rooting for.
And there was all that talk in the beginning of the season that he wasn't really on the same page with LaFleur, new head coach, and now they seem to have everything worked out.
Just win. Winning cures everything.
It really does, though.
I mean, you talk about it here in New England. Is there a rift or is there tension between all the egos in Foxborough? Winning takes care of all that, mask that.
Can winning fix anything in Washington, D.C. right now? Should they just hand the keys?
First.
That's like, what are they doing with their rookie quarterback there? Is now the time to do it? I mean, you just fired your head coach.
I don't know if he's the guy. So Callan, all they're doing.
Snyder thinks he is.
So why don't you just clear house?
Yeah.
It just drives me nuts. You fire a guy and you elevate his right-hand man to be the interim head coach. So it's sort of a Walking Dead, So why do you want to throw this kid to the Wolves? It's probably good they didn't play him against New England. He would have got killed.
I mean, I think
get rid of the owner.
Yeah,
I'm serious. You look at that ownership
starts at
group,
the top with there.
And I went to school in Maryland in the 80s and 90s, and when the Redskins were winning and Joe Gibbs was there, you couldn't get a ticket. 8 years ago, go back to RG3's early days, you couldn't get a ticket in that town. We're down there, and we see it there, all the tickets are on Groupon.
Yep.
That was a 70% New England-based fan base in that stadium. It's embarrassing for down there.
They're one of the teams right now. It seems like a lot of ugly situations. What do you have? The Dolphins, Jets, Bengals. I mean, everyone's winless. Who's the next head coach that's going to hit the job market? Who's going to be looking for a job?
It's going to be interesting in Pittsburgh. Is Mike Tomlin?
Wow, I don't know.
Not that they're going to fire him.
I was going to say,
if you want to build it the right way and have a guy that's been in the league, and Theo Epstein said this: 9 years is a long shelf life anywhere. I don't care if Terry Francona left after 9 years. Theo bolted. Tomlin's been there a while. He's the second, he and Pete Carroll behind Bill Belichick are the other two longest tenured head coaches. But if you're another team and wants to get it going, go after Tomlin. Yeah. Pittsburgh might want a fresh start.
Yeah, it just seems like that's a franchise that just prides itself on stability with that position.
Yeah, and I say that if Ben's done. Who knows how Ben's elbow is going to be when he comes back. I know he wants to finish. He doesn't want to go out that way. I hope he comes back. I like Ben. I think Ben's good for the league. And if so, I think Tomlin stays. If not, maybe they start anew there.
Another kind of dramatic page in the NFL right now is this situation in Jacksonville with Jalen Ramsey. It just seems kind of odd. Like, is he really hurt with his back? And you see him in the picture on Instagram with his agent, Sean Watson.
I don't like it.
So whose side are you on here, being a former player yourself?
With the team. I mean, you make a commitment to play for the team. The Antonio Brown stuff that we went through, that he did with the Raiders. I think the Raiders stuff was more egregious. Just didn't want to play
that
there.
Was ridiculous.
You're not an NBA player. It's the NFL. Our CBA is written differently. You can't just shoot your way out if you don't like the situation. I think I have a lot more respect for guys that, when adverse situations are created, who fights through those ones the most? Those are the guys that become the hardened pros.
I mean, Khan says he's not going to trade him right now. Is he just playing the game, though? Or?
No, like I mentioned Larry Fitzgerald earlier.
Yeah.
You have a lot of more respect from a class standpoint for a guy like Larry Fitzgerald as a player, because things haven't been great out there in Arizona, but he continues to play and work hard and be the consummate professional.
Your thoughts on the pass interference situation here? Like, we still don't really know what it is, and then the league allows you to challenge it now, but now they're not overturning it. Should it be challengeable?
Follow me on Twitter?
Yeah, I do, but for people watching who don't.
Well, it seemed like the Colts are fighting two guys the other night, not only the Kansas City Chiefs, but Al Riveron and his crew down in New York, because every time they brought Terry McAuliffe in on that Sunday night broadcast, Terry, what are you seeing? The referee in booth.
God, they're bringing him in 20 times a game
Well,
now.
that's the way I look at it. That's an interception. You come back, Al Riveron. Nope, that's an incomplete pass, even though you have no video evidence to overturn it. I don't really know what's PI or not PI anymore. But the rule was put into place to not have what happened in the Saints game. And we haven't really seen that yet. But there's a lot of this ticky-tack crap stuff going on that and I respect Bill for this, Bill Belichick. And I'd be screaming during the preseason where you could see a PI happen. I'm like, throw the flag, coach. He wouldn't throw it. He's going to let this thing play itself out to where we really learn how the league's going to call it. You don't want to take the human element out of a football game. The referees are out there. It's a tough job. And I think you have to go back and look at it this. Look at the replay in real speed. If you can't see any difference in real speed, then let the damn call stand. We could find
a helmet to helmet, or we could find a hold.
I was going to say,
on
holding
every
on the
single
offensive
play.
line.
If you slow it down with the cameras that we have now, the high def, you could find the ball moving on the player at any time. So if you're looking for something, you're going to find it, is my point.
All right. What a time to be alive, huh?
It's great. Enjoy it.
It's always
So
the
fired
best.
up. Nothing like short week NFL weeks. I love them.
Yeah, dude. Go get some rest,
All right,
man.
sounds good.
You got like your kid's Pee Wee game now, right?
I got to go Coach Pop Warner.
Look at you, always giving back.
Yeah, man of the people.
Thanks, Scott.
Pays well.
What's going on? Tara Lanezak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Bucs will likely be without their starting point guard when they begin their season on October 24th against the Rockets. Eric Bledsoe will reportedly be sidelined for up to 3 weeks after suffering a small fracture of his rib during Milwaukee's preseason win over the Jazz on Wednesday. Bledsoe had 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal before leaving the game in the second quarter with what the team originally called an oblique strain. The 29-year-old point guard is one of the team's top scorers and also one of their best defenders. He averaged over 15 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds last season, which earned him a 4-year extension in May. If all goes smoothly with recovery, there is a possibility he makes it back in time for the season opener. But in the meantime, George Hill will slide off the bench and take over his spot.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jessie Coffield. This is Piper. We're here for this week's edition of Underdog Parlay of the Week. We're about to find out who Piper is choosing to get their odds boosted. The first parlay features the Texans, who face the Chiefs, combined with the Eagles, who take on the Vikings. The second option has the 49ers, who play the Rams, parlayed with the Lions, who face the Packers. And the third choice is the Titans, who take on the Broncos, parlayed with the Steelers, who face the Chargers. And bettors, you're gonna wanna get in on this action because the Underdog Parlay of the Week has hit before. Now let's find out who Piper chooses, okay? We got an Underdog Parlay of the Week. Piper has made her decision. We are back for one last segment of the weekend. Already? Of course, yeah, I know, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But of course, we brought our NFL crew, DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich, the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels, and from the Quant Edge, Ryan Noonan.
Well, must be a reason Rosalie got to stick around and not the others.
Yes, because she's really good.
See, there you go. What are the odds? No, that's not the fact that we're closing with football. It's the name of the segment. What are the odds? And Jeff, we just saw little Piper pick the parlay of the week. Niners, Lions, everybody's excited, boosted big time, plus 570 to plus 650. Do you like the bet?
Did you see how deliberate Piper was about going to that bet?
Yeah,
like
she went straight for it.
No, she knew what she wanted.
I'm so confident in this bet now. I mean, I love the boost, first of all. Obviously, that's nice. Whenever you can get better odds than on a parlay than they were giving you before, that's good. So thanks, Piper. But, I mean, both of these teams are extremely live to me. I mean, the 49ers are grading out as one of the best teams in the NFL, top 5 in defensive, offensive DVOA. Obviously, both teams in that game are dealing with some injuries, but the 49ers are super live. I like them as an underdog pick. And it's kind of a similar story to the Lions. I mean, if you're actually looking at the Lions are coming off a bye. Green Bay is going to be without Devontae Adams again. I think Green Bay is a good upset target until Adams comes back. I know it didn't work out for the Cowboys last week, but Lions have played a lot better than people think to this point in the season. Could have beaten the Chiefs. So I think this is actually the most interesting parlay that Piper could have picked, quite frankly.
Jeff, we call it a parlay. It's a pun, but Rosalie, you know that.
I'm a pun master.
So who do you like? Do you like this bet?
You know, it's. I'm going to disagree with Jeff. Shocking, I know. I think that San Francisco definitely is viable. If you look at the analytics of both of these matchups, they're both not. Their win probability is pretty low. It's in the 30s. San Francisco I like a little bit better than Detroit, simply because San Francisco has been scoring a lot of points and holding other teams to to very few points as well, including, Tampa Bay and some really good high offensive teams. With Detroit, you have to remember, gosh, they're so inconsistent. They struggled against the Cardinals, and couldn't beat the Cardinals, but now we're saying they can beat Green Bay, who just beat Dallas, much better team. So I don't see Detroit being able to pull it off at all. No disrespect to our little pupper friend.
Okay.
Piper, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk just a little bit more about Piper. Ryan, plus 570 to plus 650. You good with that?
Yeah, we like the boost, obviously. I kind of agree with what's been echoed here previously. I mean, I think the Niners leg is more viable than the Lions. Definitely agree with Jeff. I think the Niners are in play to win outright here. Todd Gurley news aside, I thought that was kind of the case. Rams offensive line, dead last in Pro Football Focus's pass blocking grade. And this Niners front is legit. Third in adjusted sack rate. They're second in disruptive drop back rate. And so they're just creating a ton of pressure. I'm not sure that the Lions are good yet. I know they were coming off a bye. I know that they almost won at home against the Chiefs. I do think that they'll be able to keep this close, though. They probably want to just establish it, carry on Johnson, over center all day long, and that works. The Packers 28th in run D DVOA, 31st in success rate allowed to the ground game. So I think that's viable to keep them here. So with the boosted odds, I think it is in play. It's better than some of the other ones I've heard the pups pick. So
go Piper.
Go Piper.
Get it done.
Let's get into some odds. Ezekiel Elliott scored in every game but one, but we haven't seen a multiple score game from him. So like those chances this week at plus 260, Rosalie?
Yeah, seemingly you hear the Dallas Cowboys playing the New York Jets, and this seems like it would be an obvious, yeah, give me that. But you have to look at the difference. Number one, it's not the defense of the Jets that are playing so bad. It's really the offense. The defense has been pretty decent. They're allowing about 100 all-purpose yards and 0.8 touchdowns a game to the running back position. So I don't love this for Zeke, number one, because of that, and number two, because the Dallas Cowboys game plan has changed. Last year, the year before, when we're used to seeing a lot of Ezekiel Elliott, it's not what we're getting this year. What we're getting is a lot of Gallup, a lot of Cooper, a lot of pass game, a lot of Dak Prescott. So I think that a Zeke Elliott multi-touchdown game is coming. I just don't think it's this one, specifically because both Cooper and Gallup have sweet matchups this week versus Butler and Trumaine Johnson, who was benched before and now he's back, and he's graded as the third worst cornerback in the league. So I think we'll see a lot more of them and less of Zeke.
Brian, what do you think? Do you agree with Rosalie? It's not going to be this week.
I do agree with some of the points she made for sure. I mean, I've already gone in on the Cowboys team total on the over here. I think that they bounce back in a big way. The opportunities will be there, obviously, if I think that they're going to score points. I just do agree with her. I think that they're going to come through the air more so than on the ground. Jets, pretty classic pass funnel defense right now. Bottom 10 in both success rate allowed and explosive plays. So Cooper, Gallup, really nice spots. They're actually top 3, the Jets D, in rushing success rate allowed. So they have been pretty stingy on the ground so far. And I think the important piece here is just in general, touchdown props are really thin. I shy away from them. I wouldn't advise anyone to really chase them, especially a multi-touchdown prop. It's a singular high variant event. So a multi-touchdown prop, super, super thin. So I'm going to stay away.
It's where the money is, Ryan.
All right.
Jeff, where do you sit on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look to last night, right? Everyone is expecting Sony Michel to get in twice. Instead, what do we get? Brandon Bolden, 2 Tom Brady touchdowns. I mean, so good luck figuring out who's going to use it going. This is a bit different situation, though, I admit. I mean, obviously, the Cowboys basically moved Zeke Elliott back into an every down role last game. And I do agree with Ryan. I like the over on the team total of Dallas here. I think just from a narrative perspective, I could see this bet paying off. So if you are taking a shot at it, this isn't a bad spot to do it. I guess I'll go that far. It's not exactly something I like, but look, you got an angry Cowboys team. I know that, and I agree. Like the Jets definitely grade out as the run. You're more likely to have success passing against them, and the Cowboys are having success passing. But it doesn't mean that guys can't get tackled at the 1 yard line and then Zeke just punches in a couple, kind of like we saw last night a couple times. So Obviously, where touchdown luck is something week to week. If you're gambling on it, it's high variance. But I think the Cowboys are going to put up a lot of points in the spot, which means Zeke is very live to score 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I don't mind the spot at all.
Jeff Ulrich, huge Tom Brady fan.
Huge. Massive.
Really big. All right. You can get plus money if Russell Wilson throws a pick against the Browns, plus 110. Now, the Browns' defense, though, is it capable, Ryan? What do you think?
Next time I can sit over there because I have a floor-to-ceiling Tom Brady fathead right standing across from me. So, Jeff, if we're doing this the wrong way, let me know. But on this pick here, I wish the odds were a bit better. I do think the Browns bounce back this week, particularly because I do think that they're going to be able to pressure Russ. Seahawks allow pressure at one of the league's highest rates. They're also running out a backup left tackle against Myles Garrett here, so that is not going to bode well. Browns 7th in adjusted sack rate on the season, so with all their ineptitude, especially on the offensive side, the offensive line, they are getting pressure when game scripts allow them to kind of stay into it. And I think the return of both starting cornerbacks, which looks likely here, both Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams, should be good to go for this one. So, Russ is always a pretty low touchdown or low interception guy for his career. Hasn't thrown one yet this year. This could be the week, though.
Jeff, what do you think? Confident in that Browns defense?
First of all, this is a Russell Wilson household here, okay, Ryan? Okay? This is no Tom Brady talk here, no.
Like covering up the branding, too. That was good.
Against Russell Wilson, or bet on Russell Wilson throwing an interception. He's the most efficient passer in the league the last couple of years. I think it's nuts at this point. They're just the way he's playing. Cleveland secondary, obviously, still banged up. They might be getting both their corners back, though, which would obviously heighten the chance of this happening. But no, I don't want any part of betting against Russell Wilson right now. I think there's just better odds at better prices you can think about betting for props this week.
So, Rosalie, we got a Brady household. We got a Wilson household. Who's in your house?
It's just my house. It's my house. No, I do have to tell you my Tom Brady story someday, though.
Now I want to hear it. Someday. We got time right now.
A little tease. We don't have time. But, here's the thing. If I'm going to bet against Russell Wilson right now with as fire as he's been, it's going to have to be a lot more than plus 110. It's going to have to be like plus 1,000 to make it worth it for me. He is not making mistakes. He is cool. He's confident. He is awesome right now. And if you look at the Browns have 4 total interceptions this year. 2 of those came against Goff, 2 came against Lamar, but they couldn't score an interception against the Jets, Tennessee, or San Francisco. I'm going to go no.
All right, guys, Julio Jones has totaled just 94 his last 2 games. That is not good if your name is Julio Jones.
Or Aaron Jones.
Very bad. Oh, man. He'll face the Cardinals this week, and they have ageless wonder Larry Fitzgerald. Ooh, DK Sportsbook has Fitz at plus 155 to finish the game with more yards than Julio. Would you take a chance with that payout, Jeff?
God, against any other secondary, I'd be all over Julio in this second, but Atlanta's going to be without Desmond Trufant, their only half-decent corner. Teams have been targeting Isaiah Oliver repeatedly every week because he's terrible, and now he has to guard their number 1 receiver. And I know Larry Fitzgerald, he's not quite the explosive player he was. He's still averaging over 12 yards per catch, and it's only a couple yards shorter than Julio Jones has been averaging this year. Also, Jones has been dealing with some injuries. He always seems to be dealing with injuries, but I think at these odds, at plus 155, just considering how bad Atlanta's secondary has been and how many yards per attempt, per throw they've been allowing, I would take these odds with Fitz this week.
Rosalie, Arizona, those are your guys, right?
These are my guys, yeah. And clearly, Jeff has not been watching as many Cardinals games as I have because Larry Fitzgerald, not as explosive. What? He is so incredible. The things that he catches out of the air should not be caught. So, and we see now that Kyler Murray really trusts him, as he should. Larry Fitzgerald has the best hands in the league. Still, I'll put money on it, including at this bet. Plus, Larry's just getting more of the target share on his team than Julio is. Julio is getting out-targeted some weeks by both Austin Hooper and Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu. Yeah, Christian Kirk may come back, but I like the odds for this. I think this is going to be a huge game for Larry. I think he gets over 150 yards easily.
Ryan, do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously in the range of outcomes for him. I mean, at first glance, Julio for sure. You think bigger average depth of targets, more explosive. But, their season stats are pretty comparable. It's wild. The one thing that's really crazy to me, Fitz has 180 receiving yards on deep targets this season. That's his highest yardage total on deep targets since 2011. We're only 5 weeks into the season. So I think that I wish the odds were a little bit better here too, but I definitely think that I'd rather take the plus here and take Fitz.
All right, guys, very good. Unfortunately, we got to go. We had more to do. Sweat comes your way Monday through Friday, 6 Eastern. Sundays, 11:30, including this weekend. Don't miss it. I want Rosalie's Tom Brady story next week.